Oh,
There we go.
yes.
Yes, it says we're being live streamed.
Here
So
we
hi,
are.
everybody.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the 2022 Big Give. This is our 5th year going strong, and we have a really great goal that I feel really confident we are going to meet and possibly surpass. Our goal is to raise $50,000, and in fact, our board has generously come together, and they have given us a $50,000 match. So we have the opportunity to raise $100,000 that would go towards the Ladder Learning Network. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I would like to introduce Alycia Halladay. She is here with Autism BrainNet. And I also want to thank on behalf of you and everyone representing Autism BrainNet for sponsoring, being a big sponsor as well. So we really appreciate that. So you want to start off, Carrie?
I will. I'll jump in. This is not a topic that I mean, like I'll watch, and I'm seeing questions that may come in, and I know this isn't an easy conversation to have.
Right.
But we've had loss. We've had loss since I've been here.
Yeah.
But I want to put the heart piece aside for a second, making it very clear that is still very much there when we have this conversation. But Alycia, talk a little bit about what ABN does. First, what does it stand for, in case people are like, what are they saying? One more acronym. What is ABN, and what do you guys do in relation to Dupe?
So ABN stands for the Autism BrainNet, and we are a collection of different institutions and organizations kind of led by the Simons Foundation Autism Research Program, where our goal is to create a resource for researchers so that they can better understand the brains of people, not just with autism and Dupe 15, but even with just Dupe 15Q. And it really is a hard topic to talk about, because you're talking about something that's done after someone has passed away, which is like the absolute worst time. Probably the lowest time in your entire life if someone you love with Dupe 15Q has passed away. But it's important to consider, and I'm not trying to push it, but it's important to consider what can be made or what can happen as a result of that tragedy. Yeah. We all know about liver donation or lung donation or cornea donation or heart donation. And, I don't think anyone really has a problem with that, because it saves, you save someone's life directly. But when it comes to brain tissue, the immediate, I'm going to transplant a brain and then all of a sudden save someone's life isn't there. It's, I'm going to donate a brain for research so that the next person's life can be saved. And the research is really showing a lot of promising directions for people with Dupe 15Q with and without autism.
So what happens then if someone says, I want to donate tissue? Do the parents, and we get this question from parents, can they ever find out what research that went to, and certainly understandable if they can't, but do they get any reporting or feedback?
So they absolutely can. So what happens is once the donation has been made and that donation has been completed, we wait a little while and then reach out to the family and get some information from them. What was their loved one like? What were their strengths? What were their weaknesses? Did they have seizures? Did they have co-occurring conditions anywhere between anxiety and bipolar or autism or all those other things that are so prevalent in people who have a Dupe 15Q mutation. And then at that point, we kind of gather some information, and then the tissue goes off to be studied by researchers around the world. One of the other things that happens is if the family would like, we can do a basic neuropathology report. Sometimes that aids in an autopsy if that's called for, but it may not be. But the family may want to know if there was something, just like if there was a tumor or if there was some sort of other huge thing. But really what happens is, because you're talking about the brain and you're talking about very subtle differences in the way the cells are shaped and the way they connect and how genes interact with each other, specifically in the brain, that you may not see something overt. And it's only when you collect a lot of data from a lot of people, and when I say a lot, I'm more talking about a few, to better understand where the differences are and the similarities. So the similarities of people with Dup15q and autism versus those with just Dup15q compared to those with other neurodevelopmental disorders with a rare genetic syndrome, like Rett syndrome, for example, so we're finding that there's some similarities across those different disorders, but then there's also some differences. And so by finding similarities, it's interesting that some of the same parts of the brain and the receptors in the brain that are targeted by drugs that affect or are using to treat people with Fragile X may in fact be helpful to treat people with mutations in the 15q region. So, I'm not saying that that's the only thing that's happening, but that's definitely one of the things that's happening. So yeah, it's a difficult topic to talk about. I find some people are very, very open to it, and then some people are reluctant. But the goal today is not for you to make a commitment. The goal is for you to learn about this, to learn what it is, why it's important, and then also consider signing up. And I'm sure someone can put the link in the Facebook chat. Yeah. The sign up only means learn more. How about we send you every once in a while some new research that's been done? Yeah. And the amazing thing about this community is that you guys have all rallied together and supported brain tissue donation so much that there's already been some major scientific discoveries that are impacting the lives of people with autism now based on those donations.
It's amazing because, coming into this role as the new ED, I remember talking to one of the first families that I had experienced loss with, and I was blown away by first how quickly they said to me, I would say, I'm so sorry. This is obviously a bit emotional, but I would say to them, I'm so sorry. I can't believe you've gone through this loss. And, what can we do for you? And their next question was, and this happened twice in the last few months. Their next question was, you guys talked about the tissue donation. How do I do that? And I have been overwhelmed with what a good job this team has done of educating in such a tender subject. And I actually talked to a mom just last week or 2 weeks ago, who had a loss. And I said, can I ask what made you decide to donate tissue? What was kind of because she was just so open about this was so important to her. And she said, I kept hearing from you guys how important it is. And what a legacy to leave of my child. And I thought, holy moly, like in the moment, would I be that selfless? And I just, and part of it too is ABN does such a beautiful job when we have to make that call, which is just not the most fun part of my job. When we have to make that call, the kindness, compassion, you're not, and I say this because there's gonna be parents watching this who are like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of planning for arrangements and family coming in town. How long is this gonna take? And I don't have the capacity. It is done with such compassion and such grace. Just it's lovely, honestly. And we're going to talk in a few minutes with one of the parents who did that, and which is, just unbelievable to talk about. But Ember, will you share a little bit about your help, like your future planning? Like, how did y'all have this discussion?
Yeah, well, I do think it kind of stemmed from just talking about it more in our community, which as hard as, again, these are difficult conversations, but they need to be had. My Brendan does have, multiple seizures, multiple times a day when he's sleeping. And, and that's hard in itself. But can I tell you, the more I learned, like, I know that term knowledge is power, but it kind of is, because it really helped knowing the process of what would really happen. Like, should that ever happen to Brendan? I'm going to be honest with you, it was a relief knowing what we would do instead of, not learning and not going there and just putting up this wall. It's like, I feel more comfortable talking about it now. Again, by any means, I have not walked the path of those who, have passed. But as a family, myself and my husband would definitely want to have Brendan as part of research of his tissue. So, and that is something that I will be doing this week. Alycia is signing up. But I will say there is some relief in just making that final decision.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't have to, so that's the final decision when the death has occurred, right? So
Right.
that's when the final decision gets made. Up until that final decision, we don't expect there to be a decision. We
Right.
don't think that, that we're asking people to sign up because we want them to learn more about it. And you can unsubscribe at any time. You've had enough, you don't want to read it anymore, unsubscribe. But again, your experience of like, well, you have to learn about it and you have to understand what it is before you commit to it, is definitely true. And thank you for mentioning the Carrie, the staff members. Some of you may know them already just from meeting them at meetings and stuff. It's Carolyn and Nicole, and they have over 20 years working not just with autism families, but with families who have experienced a recent death. And I can tell you that in my years of working with them, and I've gotten that call from families, and what do we do? And I literally just put them in touch with Carolyn and Nicole, and they take care of it all.
They really do.
They just make sure that, it doesn't delay anything. It doesn't delay a funeral. It doesn't change your funeral plans at all. It doesn't, there's not an extra stop or an extra step, that they'll make sure that everything is done really according to, how you want it done, and the least, I mean, I hate to say the least amount of inconvenience, because at the time it's, the whole thing is a horror, but and it does make a difference. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's been, 120 individuals who have donated, or whose family has donated with autism, and that includes those with Dup15q. And then there's 28 with rare genetic disorders like Dup15q, including Dup15q, but without autism. And until we kind of get to the bottom of what's going on in the brain and better understand things like, seizures and feeding problems, and, feeding problems start in the brain. So, seizures and feeding problems and motor issues and all of those other things, that's how we're going to do it, is to better understand what's going on directly in the brain.
Alycia, if somebody, we put in the chat, the link to sign up, to just get more information, again, reiterating
Absolutely.
If in that link, is there, and I'm going to ask probably the question that parents are thinking, is it Candid? Like, I mean, I've had a parent say to me, like, will that, and you touched on this a little bit, will that affect like my child's viewing? Will it affect, I mean, I hate to be that.
No, I appreciate that. Yes, there is, there's a frequently asked Q&A, and there's a tab, donation questions. And we're very honest about it, so no, it doesn't affect an open casket, and it can be done at a funeral home, or it can be done, at the hospital. I mean, any other question? I mean, I hate to, kind of go on and on about questions people may ask, but they will be answered. And if there's one that you can't find, every family has a specific circumstance. If there's one that you can't find, you email us at info@autismbrainnet.org and ask it, and we'll answer it. That one is not going to call you back immediately. That email may take a couple days, but if you call that 1-877 number and you say that there is a donation, you will get a response back in like 2 to 5 minutes. So that's how quickly you'll get a response back. But questions like that may not take as long. You can also give that number to your physician at the hospital and say, you
Take care of
handle
them.
this, and
Yeah.
they'll make sure
Yeah.
that it's all done. And if it's something that happens at home, then you give that number to the coroner or the medical examiner, and they make sure that that happens.
Yeah.
And of course, we wouldn't not do anything without, we wouldn't just do that. We would get in touch with you again to make sure that it's okay. Because we're not just going to take the word of someone we don't know. We would want to talk to the family. But yeah, I mean, it is, and it's, there are a lot of unique questions, right? Especially around what happened prior to the death and all of that. So, yeah, it is a difficult subject. It doesn't have to be. The Autism BrainNet newsletter does make it so you're learning about the science. You're learning about what's going on in research around that. And then I know we've also had amazing Duke 15Q scientists like Dan Geschwind talk specifically on webinars about what they've learned and where the direction of science is because of this research. And so I know that that's somewhere, and we could even do that again for people that are interested in specifically learning about the scientific discoveries. But, all of these things you hear about, new drugs being developed, new mechanisms in the brain, a better understanding of how different things are connected, the brain and feeding, the brain and GI, anxiety, OCD, all of these seizures. Those things are being built off of better understanding the brains of people with autism.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I mean, I know even the SUDEP question, and did this person pass away of SUDEP, or did this, that information is so essential, and also to encourage our community when, hey, maybe it's not all SUDEP related, and maybe there's other things we need to be looking at that, and now all of that can come from this type of research. So I know we're so grateful for what you all do. And again, I can't stress enough how amazing your team is. Is there anything else that ABN offers that is relevant to our families? I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything that we should share with our community.
Yeah, so I mean, for those families who become next of kin of donors, we have an aftercare program where families are offered some counseling if they'd like it, some interactions with experts, allowed to be part of a greater community of next of kin donor families. We also will offer, you guys tell me, we can offer specific scientific webinars to talk more about the science and what we do or what ABN does. And then, one of the things that's very, very important to us is learning specifically about that donor, as you mentioned, right? So there may be all sorts of other things. SUDEP may have been the primary cause of death, but what else was going on at that time? And so we really put together this comprehensive, and we're better also understanding about the causes of death in people with autism and rare genetic disorders. So, it's not always one thing, there's multiple things going on. And so that information is definitely making an impact in terms of, what we can do to prevent those deaths.
Yeah, absolutely. Ember, any last words, or as a mom, any other last questions or words from you?
No, but the only thing I wanted to add is, like, even you talking more and learning a little bit more of what I didn't understand did bring more of a sense of relief to me, so I just appreciate how you're so gentle in explaining it. So thank you so much. I think that makes
Thank
such
you
a
guys
difference.
for all listening and for
Thank
being
you.
so supportive of the program, because again, there's also this fear, I think, that people, if they listen to it and they kind of take it in, that's like a bad curse on them, that their child is, and that's not the case. I mean, honestly, of all the, the people, it's just statistically, it's just not the case. And maybe you'll get to learn something about the science. I mean, even if everyone should learn about the science and how it's helping them. And also, thinking about, okay, this looks interesting. Like, should we go into this area? I mean, that's the way scientists think. It's like, putting these pieces and saying, okay, well, we're seeing difference in this region, but not this region. This could explain some of the seizures in some people. Is this factor protective of seizures in other people? So it's not about just identifying what's going wrong, but then also promoting potential resiliency in the brain in different ways. So
well,
Yeah.
Alycia, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for this information. And again, in going through it in such a heartfelt manner. We actually, our next guest is going to touch a little bit on Autism BrainNet, Rachel Seeger. So thank you so much again for your time and supporting our community, Alycia.
Oh, thank you. And
Yeah.
I'll be watching Rachel on the Facebook feed.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Watching
Well,
before, and I
thank
thought,
you.
oh, I have to follow Stormy Chamberlain. Okay.
Yeah.
She's such an amazing
Yeah.
speaker.
That's
So-
stormy. Oh, okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'll leave and then keep watching on the feed.
Thank you. Thanks for everything.
Bye.